Hello, everybody. My name is Niti, and I am a poet, Congolese poet based in Dublin. And I'm going to read from my debut collection called Palm Wine Tapper and the Boy at Jericho. So the launch date is the 23rd by Dora Press and Poetry Ireland. It's being launched at DCU from 6:30 if you're around. Come say hello. So I'm going to start with the first poem called Palm Wine Tapper. It's because the title is a combination of two poems I've combined together. And this is the poem where the book gets the title, well, the first poem anyways. So it's called Palm Wine Tapper. It's literally just is describing this job of palm tappers we have back in the DRC where I'm from. And it's literally just men mostly climbing the palm trees to collect whatever they can that people can use. And this is about the collection of wine, palm wine, so palm wine tapper. It is no woman's job, though no one ever said it was. You learn it from your father. One cut up a tree. Interlock yourself with the prey by a rope, a gourd, hinged on the hips. Opposing the cast, he swarmed the long-necked beauty right up to its crown, stepping on the scars to pose at the peak where working men could see him cutting the incubus of a tree. He did not fear the ice, nor the void life refused to fill, but leaned against the nothingness, trusting the rope, the ring of union. Mash the bunched fruits for oil, knife the trunks necks for sap, the palm wine tapped tangy and breast mill like. The forest would close. Farmers crossed a neighborhood, hunters in packs, clowning fishermen. The tapper crossed alone, silent. He sees all there is to know up there. A young girl watching, the men of the village. I wanted to marry a palm tapper's son. Thank you. The next one I'm going to read. If I have to comment about the book, I have been doing interviews, and a lot of people have been describing it as a nod to the Congo. It is supposed to be about the Congo. That's the impression I get, but I wouldn't agree. It's about the journey of where I'm coming from and where I've been in Ireland as well. So I decided to bring most poems based in Ireland. So just so we know, it's not only about the DRC. The next one I'm going to read is called An Opus. It's a poem written a few years back when they were building the second rail that goes by O'Connell Street. And it's just a poem that describes the scene that I saw going past on the Dublin bus. An Opus. O'Connell Street is dug and barred. The chunks, the honks, the clank tick of the 12 o'clock. They're adding other rails, though the opposite troops still need coats. And there crammed a pack for the one traffic light left for use. The Alpha looks on. Across a creature granged in a shell. You can't see its eyes, it's too cold to come out. Then rain slips a purse. The crowd moved, a flunk, a migration rehearsal. A gent with otherness wrecks. Inside, he's cast adrift. The next one as well is set in Dublin. I took a walk with a friend, and I lost my scarf. I think that's what it was, and a lot of things came in mind in that short space of time, and it's inspired this poem called Things Slip Away, and I think it pretty much explains itself. Things slip away. I met a friend on Merriam Square. We drew the streets to Stevens Green, chatting. Then I remembered I had a scarf, a cotton cloth with scuba art. The bus pass was just left behind. The warmth of a lifeless woman. My grandmother would catch up with me with the things I left behind when I was a child. I have nothing of what was said between, "That's the thing, you know," and "Oh well." Nothing to place on St. Stephen's damp green grass. So I take loads of inspiration from nature. Being a country girl, I never quite grew out of it. So I was born in the countryside and spent the first few years of my life in the countries, but I would say my memories, having friends and all of that, was built in the cities, because that's where I was mostly raised. But there is something about nature that stayed with me, and even when I write poetry, the images, mostly it comes from nature. I think we all do, but I have a very, I would say, strong ties or contact. I mean, I love nature a lot, so most of my images would come from nature. And this poem as well, so I wrote it. It's called Monasteries. I think I brought the second one I read for the UCD archives. They're still online if you want to check them. With a lot of my colleagues here, I can see them, friends. They are featured as well. The UCD Special Collection. So this poem I read only the second part, so I'm going to read the full one. It's Monasteries, and I think it explains itself. Monasteries. Bell towers neck long like the obelisks, proof of the country's sacerdotes. A priesthood of orisons, of the quill-inked Celts, Celtic crosses. The duties of the celibate travelers was beacon for an island. Peddlers at Clonmacnoise quietened long time ago, but the monks' chants in the Midlands glide, the roofless chambers, the Ogum stones with punctuations, lower and near on the ray grass when at Clonmacnoise, for the phantom chants missioned to the halls of the pollened bogs, to the orchards, hallowing. So the collection is just not about me describing landscapes. It's about feminism, femininity as well, but of course using nature to describe that. So the next one I'm going to read, The Dragon Blood Tree. Well, to me, it explains itself like most of my poetry, but I suppose it's my poetry, so I get it. But this one as well, it's just using the dragon blood tree to describe the body of the woman, the feminine body. It's called Dragon Blood Tree. The ball is the cord that links it to its mother. Branches, the veins, to flower like fibri. A woman's body is more than the petals bright, the soft, cinquillate peaches. Some parts are the dragon blood trees, gripping on hard soil for 600 years. I'm going to close off with a poem called Roots, Branches. I think it summons the collection quite well, because the collection is a combination of the two words. It's where I'm coming from, where I am, and where I've been. And I think this poem kind of navigates the feelings between being here and there. I think it does that quite well. And I hope it explains itself as well, because I hate explaining my poems. Like Fiona had said once in an interview, it's like, if I wanted to say something about my poem, I think I could have wrote it down. So if it's not down, it means I don't want you to know it. So I hope it explains itself as well. Roots, branches. Because roots cannot do what branches could do, I rose from dust, grew branches, spread myself across continents, reaching for lights, flowers on my course. But branches I found cannot do what roots could do. I wrecked the flight of a stringless kite, crown shyness inside. I pray to land. Branches cannot do what roots can do. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kelly. I'm from the United States originally, and I wanted to read a couple poems today. In the United States, we've had quite a few mass shootings, school shootings, and this is a poem that I wrote after the Parkland shooting that injured 17 students and killed 17 students. What happened after the Parkland shooting, this was in 2018, there was a blessing of guns ceremony directly after the shooting, in response to the shooting. And, it took place in a church. And the schools around that area in Pennsylvania went on lockdown. So this poem has two voices in it. One is the voice of a teacher, and one is the voice from this Blessing of Guns ceremony. The poem is titled Revising Bosch's Hell Panel for the 21st Century. And it begins with the epigraph, hundreds of couples toting AR-15 rifles packed a Unification Church in Pennsylvania on Wednesday to have their marriages blessed and their weapons celebrated as rods of iron that could have saved lives in a recent Florida school shooting. Rutgers, February 28, 2018. They come wearing crowns of gold bullets in their hair, bodies drenched in white satin, white lace, tulle, lining the pews on a weekday morning, AR-15s in their hands, calling on God to save them. There is no such thing as salvation, only the chosen, and too few are chosen. Children are told to stay inside, schools locked shut, swings hushed. Even the wind says quiet as the guns are blessed. Dark O of mouths waiting to exhale a ribbon of smoke. The children are told to crouch in the closet, to stay still as butterflies on butcher knives, while the men take their brides in iron rods, saluting the book of Revelation, its scribbled last words, the coming of a new kingdom. Don't speak, don't breathe. Pretend you are an astronaut gathering wisteria twigs in the crater of the moon. Pretend the twigs are the arm of a broken mandolin. Someday it will speak, Someday it will sing. Dear God, bless the self in the age of the self. Bless this bracelet of rifle shells. Bless our God-given individual right. I know you want to sing. You want to sing like blackbirds escaping from the mouth of a grasshopper. But remember, we are only here for a little while. So for now, keep quiet. Pretend we are somewhere else. Pretend we are practicing our handwriting, the lollipop of a lowercase I, the uppercase A triangle in an orchestra, the different sounds it makes if you strike it the right way. Practice the slow arch of an R. Now, form the words. Scribble, run. Scribble, come. Scribble, mom. Scribble, when will this be over? But for God's sakes, be quiet. Don't cry, just write. Scribble on the walls, your arms. Scribble as if it's the last thing you will ever say. Pretend it sounds like music. And if the devil comes through that door, remember to go limp. Lie on the floor like a tumble of Legos. Don't move. Don't speak. Don't breathe. Pretend you're already dead. Remember, this is how you live. This next poem also deals with a shooting that happened in my hometown. And at the time, this was in 2019, I was outside playing with my niece and nephew, who are twins. They were 2 years old at the time. And we were outside just playing on the swing set. And they were forming words and imitating the sounds in the environment. And what we didn't know at that time is that I was so happy that they were forming words, because of course I'm a writer, right? But what was actually going on was right down the road, about a mile away, there was a shooting, and we just didn't know it yet. And it was the deadliest mass shooting in the city's history. A man armed with 2 semi-automatic pistols and a silencer walked into a public utilities building, killing 12 people and wounding 4 others. And one important thing that the poem notes is that there was a silencer used. And from my conversations with people right after the shooting in law enforcement, the difficulty with a silencer is that it distorts the sound. Not necessarily silencing it, but very much distorting it. You don't know where it's coming from. This is called May 31st, 2019, Virginia Beach, Virginia. There is a difference between silence and the silencer, between the stillness of a voice and the dislocated flash of an echo, the muffler, trigger, chamber, the sound of a bullet as it enters, crackling like church bells plunging into a house fire. But my 2-year-old niece and nephew do not know this yet. They are just learning to speak, the puff of their fingers rising, pointing to the swing, my eyes searching to find their words. As a man's footsteps can be heard, staccato hum of Friday. Some will say he was ordinary. Some will say it was a matter of time. They are showing me how to form words. EU, EU, says the siren. their skin smooth as pale eggs, and I am so happy I want to cry. Yes, EU, goes the siren, EU. As a woman thinks of what to make for dinner, her blonde hair cloistered at the nape of her neck, the end of a long day. Her boss barricades the door, says, "Get down." Everything freezes. Understand, there is a difference between silence and a silencer, between the curtain of a voice and the hollow of a scream being snatched away. Today is any other day. Tomorrow, any other tomorrow. We don't remember our first words, but we remember before. We remember after. The walls, a demented trampoline. A millennium of bullets scattering like birds caught in a chimney. Across the park, the stuttering of clouds. My niece pointing to a broken spine of sky. Plah, plah, plah. Yes, plane. My nephew running. EU, EU. Stumbling with one shoe toward the slide. As a father of 3 sits slumped in a stairwell 5 blocks away, his body crumbling like a wet napkin. But we do not know this yet. We only know the humdrum of sun straining toward summer, the sandbox not yet simmering. He can taste blood on his lips, an ocean spreading over his eyes. It sounds like a choir of knives, or a cat scratching at the back door. He can't be sure. 1st floor, 2nd floor, 3rd. The gun rattles down the hall like a tin god on a live wire. It does not matter who, the mother with blonde hair, the man in the stairwell. It does not matter why. As my nephew hides behind a tree, 1, 2, 3, I close my eyes. A woman's necklace spills across her neck like candlelight. She is trying not to breathe. Ready or not, here I come, my nephew shrieks. Another chopper, cha, 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 cha. They chant, craning their eyes. Plah, 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 sings my niece, the letter N not quite formed, escaping from her throat like a fogged window. As the first responders step over the bodies, water bills, building permits, photos of newborns. They don't bother with the ones they know are gone. It is 4 p.m., Friday. My niece sounds out each syllable. Pla, la, la. Her tiny voice tugging at the wind. And I am so happy I could scream. EU, EU, goes the siren. Vowels drifting from their mouths like burning leaves. Lips struggling to find the right shapes. Showing me so desperately how to speak. Puckering the O's, climbing the E's. In a world where there is nothing left to say. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Darcy. I'm going to be reading 3 poems for you today. The first poem is inspired by some time I spent in Donegal over the lockdown in a little cottage on the bay. There was no Wi-Fi, no shower, and I'm pretty sure it was haunted, but this is a nice poem about it. It's called Brookless, County Donegal. Tea steeped heavily in a stainless steel teapot, left to go cold. I ration the milk so we don't have to brave the frost, and I do love it. The small square table for two, the blanketed sofa and the fire, the bitterness and the warmth. Walks along the bay, the sailors' quiet hauntings, stone bridges over streams, snowberries, nettles for tea, dandelions for honey. Horses with leg warmers walk the curved line of the hill. Daisies close their eyes in the rain, and ferns stick their tongues out to catch it. Logs clamber to huddle at the back door. Twigs snap under the heel of a boot. A bath, taken two at a time. Candles, chocolate, wine, in the long, tall echo of the room. Our smallness in it. Laughing in one corner as the others laugh back. Contorting in the last warmth of water. Half in, half out, while the window lets the cold in. The wood wet and eaten into. The doily curtains a fringe. I step onto cold tiles and hold a towel wide to catch you. We tiptoe, as we must. Now your paintings lie in the hall, with oils so thick they may never dry, to the yellowed heater in the bedroom we plugged in an hour ago. The next one I'm going to read is called Clotted Cream, and it contains all the elements of a certain nursery rhyme, so see if you can figure out what that is. Clotted cream, lumped, heavy, scooped with silver spoon, dollop on a smeared purple scone. The moon is still out in the mornings, with a howl and heavy cloud. Cows asleep beside their ghosts. Crows on the line of the telephone. Black knives slicing sky. A long meow on steel strings. The cat hides her kits in the ditch. The cut across my knee spreads purple, scabbed, clotting, jam and bread dipped in tea falls on the little dish. The last poem I'm going to read is called On the Best Day of My Life. On the best day of my life, we did hardly anything. We weren't away, it wasn't sunny. We ate 3-in-1s in the park after smoking, fell right into them, then woke as if from a heavy dream to busy people's legs, blue-grey paint strokes across our page, and I tell you, I think I'm happy now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sometimes I wonder why I do what I do, and today I'm reminded that poetry really means something in a crazy world. So thanks to Chris Fitzgerald and Nithi Casa, to Kelly Mitchells and to Darcy Duggan. I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you. Thank you. Those of you with your pens and paper, I hope you've been making notes, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your poems at the end. And I actually do have some little suggestions that you can be thinking about while Jane comes on to play some more music. One moment. If you didn't get any colours, you could try Pretend It Sounds Like, or even just Pretend. These are borrowed from Kelly. Remember. And there is a difference between. So there are some little prompts. Hopefully you'll feel inspired. There are pens, there are paper, there's a wall, and there will be time for you to share your words as well. And Jane, thank you so much.
I really appreciate all the poetry. It's really, really good, and I love that people talk about things that matter to them, like school shootings. It really shocked me a bit. I'm a bit like trembling. So thank God we don't have a lot of school shootings in Ireland, but I did write a song about the housing crisis. So that's something that I get really angry about. This free life, this free life. This free life, this free life. What free life, what free life. This free life, this free life. Oh, this free life, this free life. Oh, this free life, this free life. Oh, this free life, this free life.
Thank you for that, Jane. And don't forget, janewillow.com if you want to check out more of her work. So our next section is going to be a little bit unconventional. We have Helen Hutchinson, a wonderful poet. She'll be reading for us. And then it will be you, the audience. And then I will close out with a few poems of mine, and we'll have Jane singing a song to wind up. So just to tell you a little bit about Helen. Helen is a poet a poet and traveller woman from Nina in County Tipperary. She grew up in the settled community as a direct result of the Itinerancy Act, which sought to assimilate travellers and wipe them out as a community. To make sense of her life, she began writing poetry. Her work touches on settlement, cultural prejudices, media stigmatising of travellers. She uses her voice to break down barriers within the settled community. She's lost 6 family members to suicide, a subject she addresses in her poetry. She has read her work in the Mountains to Sea Festival, at traveller gatherings, at suicide awareness events, and The Voice magazine has published her work. So I'll hand you over now to Helen. Thank you so much, Helen.
My name is Helen Hutchinson, and I'm a travelling woman. I come from a family of 10, but at this stage in our lives, half of them are gone, died to suicide. We were housed under the Itinerancy Act in 1967, or 63, sorry, under the Charlie Haughey regime, who sought to assimilate travellers, who sought to pull us into the settled way of life and groom us into believing that we weren't travellers anymore. And for us as a family, it cost us a high price. I write my poems from experience of living as a travelling woman, but also living as a settled person, because I got groomed in, and I had, for a long, long time in my life, lived 2 identities. One within the travelling community, where I was known as a traveller. My family would be known as travellers, but because we were in a house up a lane, when we turn up that lane, we would be travellers. Go down to the end of the lane and you would be a settled person. The discrimination and the racism and the prejudice that came along in our lives, although the community of Cloughjordan, where I actually grew up, the majority of people were good, kind people, but there was a minority there, racism and prejudice, suppression, degrading, and it got the boys, not the girls, because we didn't actually mix. We were very much stuck with our mother in the house, like all travellers do. The girls will stay with their mothers, the boys will actually go with their fathers, or the boys will do something. But the boys gradually went into sports. My brother Joe came to be a county hurler for Tipperary. My other brother Michael and Tom and Paddy also hurled, so there was 4 hurlers, Killer 1 McDonough. And they were very, very good in their time. But through hurling, when winter came, the hurling season was over, the boredom would set in, because who would want to give a traveller a job, give a travelling man a job, give a travelling woman a job? Yeah, seasonal work, no bother, go out and pick potatoes, get a bit of hay, do something with it. You're not going to steal that. But don't dare let them into a shop, don't dare let them do security, don't dare let them into a factory. They're knackers, they're tinkers, they're dirty. That is the way it was back then and is still to this day. We are the most suppressed minority group, an ethnic Irish minority group within our own right, and through the last couple of years we have won that right. But as staying that we've won that right so far, that paper that is written on isn't worth it. You know something, I flush it down the toilet if I had my way, because there's no action. There's just a piece of paper expressing that we are an ethnic minority group, but we weren't entitled to any specific or any, special treatment. We didn't look for special treatment. What we looked for is our rights, our basic human rights as travellers. Just to live. We didn't want to live like the settled people. We had our own culture, we have our own ways, we have our own language. But that was destroyed. We lost an awful lot. Our culture is nearly dead, and we're doing our very best now from organisation to organisation within county to county of trying to keep what's left of it alive. But even at that, we had a protest last Sunday. I'm sorry I wasn't at it, but we did have a protest last Sunday or Saturday, and the Dáil refused to take the letter. That says a lot for the Irish government. That says a lot for equality. That says a lot for inclusion. They have a lot to answer for, and it just the protest just won't stop there. We will keep going on. We will keep fighting for what is right and what is ours, just our own way, just to live, to be left alone and live our own lives. At the end of the day, if you get a chicken and you get a cat, you can't tell that cat he's a chicken, and you can't tell that chicken he's a cat, because it's not. No. So my poetry is actually based upon my family, what they went through. And my father and my mother, the suffering that I could see them going through. So my first poem that I'll read to you would be the most, I think, upmost one. Well, it'd be two, my mother and my father, would be Men Don't Talk. This would be referring to my father. Because even though we lost two brothers through suicide, my father didn't speak about it. My father would hold his head down. You couldn't speak to him. He's silent, like all travelling men to this day are silent. There's groups now starting up again to try to get travelling men to strengthen up and talk about themselves, but they feel that as a weakness within themselves because they are proud and they don't believe that help is available to them anyway. And in the help, if you go to doctors, psychiatrists or any organisation, they don't understand the traveller's culture. You're treated like anybody else when you weren't anybody else. You are a travelling person, and when they don't know about your culture, they don't address your needs. They can't because they don't know. Nothing is written in any curriculum in schools or in colleges. When you become doctors, teachers or whatever, nothing is written. So you're just basically going to school or going to college and you're finding out about all the settled way of life, but for travellers, their way of life is excluded. And so my first poem would be here on my father and how I saw my father. You're so far out there in your mind, Daddy, sitting there smoking your pipe, so deep in thought, so silent, thinking, yet you don't say a word. A life in tatters left behind for you to fix is unfixable. I know you're thinking to yourself, it wasn't your fault. They went one by one. There was nothing you could do. Just like you, Daddy, they all stayed silent. They all stayed quiet and so silent. Not a word, not a thought to say. They wanted out. And that would be in regards to my two brothers who committed suicide, and my father, in his own way, blaming himself that he couldn't help and believing that he was the cause of it, and that if he were to speak to them, that maybe they wouldn't have done it, but they wouldn't speak, just like Daddy. They don't speak, men don't speak. So that would be on my father. Then I wrote another one on my mother, who I saw perishing from the first suicide to the second suicide, it really took her to her grave. She perished away in her own mind, in her own thought, in her own world, and she didn't live for the living, she lived for the dead. So this is one called No Stronger Love. As I look at her now, sitting there by the window, I can see a reflection of her face on the window, tears running down her cheeks like pearls of water, shed for those whom she'll never see alive again. I summarise her thoughts: a new house, a different location. This old house is no more, for she lost 2 sons through that lane. Heartbroken, she lowers her head, swiping at the tears. I pretend not to see her grief. 2 lives lost needlessly. Probably thinking she should have gone before them, for that's the way it's meant to be. She gets up to make a cup of tea, her frail body making it to the kitchen, brings in a mug for her and Daddy. He nods, but says nothing, as the pain in his heart is unbearable. 2 broken people hanging on together, dwelling on their 2 sons who killed themselves needlessly. Mum and Dad are with the boys now. I can see Mother holding them in close to her heart, like so many travelling women do. One day we will all be at rest. And when I look at a family as a whole, and I often heard my father and mother, when we moved into the house in our younger days, they wanted to move out. They didn't want to settle, so this poem is called Never Settled. They never wanted to settle, and at times they talk about it, but the reason why they couldn't move out was because of the schools, because of the social welfare, and because of the boys and the seasonal work and whatever, but they couldn't move out. They felt trapped. So again, this one is Never Settled. Oh, let me out of here, it's a prison. Let me out of here before I die. An old man stands by the window, living a life like this. Why? Wandering about the old camps, once upon a time in days gone by, the system forced him off the roads, taking away his freedom. Why? The change was for the better, so no more life upon the roads. Well, if this is life, God help me, a life lonely, a life I loathe. Those 4 walls surround me. I can't see my land no more. My traditions are dying slowly. Get me out of here before I die. I am a proud man from proud people. A traveller is a true name, no more. Culture is not something I believe in. You're killing the travelling people. Why? No, I did just do one more poem. It's about us when we were small and when we first settled and our first days at school. And the imprint is left on our brains, all of us, each and every one of us, forever to this day, in the way we were treated on our first days. We went to school the first day. There was all 5 of us because we were took off the road and put into a house. Before that, there was no school. And the first day we went to school, the teacher brings us all up on a little stand and says to the children, now those are tinkers. They used to be on the side of the road, but they're not tinkers no more, so you don't treat them like tinkers now because they have a house, they're settled like you. But the treatment wasn't that way. So this is Hold My Hand. Please hold my hand. What's wrong with me? Please tell me, as I'm not like you. I know I'm a traveller, but I do you no harm. I want to play Ring-a-Rosy. Oh, please, won't you hold my hand? It's the first day at school, and I'm frightened, and I'm lonely, and no one will play with me. I don't like the names you call me, and I don't understand. Are you saying those words to hurt me? Oh, please, won't you hold my hand? It's hard to know where I come from. Now I live in a house like you. Now we're all the same. We're all settled. So please, won't you hold my hand?
And now it's your turn, folks. Do I have anybody from the audience who would like to come up and share a few words with us? I'm not going to stare at people. Yeah, please do. Come. Of course, I should look. You're so welcome. If you can say your name and read your poem. Thank you so much.
My name is Aoife. I'm a student at UCD. I'm doing a master's in literature and culture, and I've written 2 poems. So this one is called Flesh. My body is all that remains when my mind determines to wander. My frame is all that lasts, is the last outline of defense against pain's search for oblivion. While anguish colors sense and paints truth, my body is a stretched canvas. Clouded eyes oppose the dense tides of throat that scream of sap, running from my veins, falling into sensibility where my body is planted. Do not weep for me. I cry, don't cry. My arms collect the howls of each waterfall, rainfall, curtain call. My body dams it all. Take from me hope and find close my shell. Take from me my sight, in darkness find my remains. Can anyone hear me? My body is not my own. Take it. Do with it better than I have done. And then I wrote a second poem called The Atheist. I am an atheist, he says. I only believe in what I can see. My song of sadness, its devotion to madness, is invisible. Or does that make me agnostic, he considers. I'm not sure of the terms. The lost words are my lost worlds, this creation in my head. Whichever it is, I rely on proof, he proclaims. I won't be sold on the ramblings of madmen. That's me out. I fall to my knees at the altar of this mania. I answer when it calls. I lead the choir that sings the song of sadness. Listen, its harmony tells this religion of madness. I say, something is wrong. He says, I see nothing at all.
I think we have another audience member. Yeah? And yeah. Come, Carol, come. Yeah, and then you're next. Great.
Hello everyone, greetings. This is the very first poem I wrote when I was here within 2-3 minutes, and it's dedicated to Yannicka. How it begins. As she approaches the microphone, her fingers pluck fiercely at her instrument as they do the strings of my heart, tender from touch or lack thereof. The tears of 1,000 years of women living between the lines of possibility and the bars of silence flow. They roll in my memory like they have over my grandmother's cheeks, akin to all of the mountains that rise at dawn. They have learned to darken when danger or dusk looms close by. To all of the...
Just say your name as well.
Oh, my name is Carol Metellus, and I've journeyed from Philadelphia to be with you and with Fióna Bolger this week. So I'm humbled and delighted to be here with you. To all of the poets who have written today. Generations of bone have hardened our travel from belonging to where are you from anyway? And years later, after scrubbing dishes and sweeping stars, cradling babies and learning ing and ed, ing and ed, and I asked myself the same question. Who am I and where do I belong? When home is no longer home, but the rubble ashes of buried memories of my toddler joys. One more for her, and I will shorten this poem. It's called Mothers of the World because of the condition in which we are in today. And school shootings and homelessness, it's all the same mother source. Mothers of the World.
Et si li malade ou pas kwe la traité ou sous la main moi tant de tirer on irait moi tant de tirer.
Mothers of the world, keepers of the flame, protectors of the womb, have birthed babies, brought souls to beckon their stillborn fates, have cried for sons to lay bare their daughters' misuse, have nursed young girls with their own wisdom, with fingers of softened steel. Mothers of the world, keepers of heaven's flames, in their hearts, in their hands, at their door, mothers with the earth pulse beneath their feet, forging the promise of new cries and sunny days, cry for peace.
I think poets are just anarchists, and administration and poets just, they don't work. But it's great, and you've all made magic. And I think I have one more person from the audience. Please come. Please introduce yourself. Come.
Hi everyone, I'm Shreya and I live close by. I just saw an Instagram ad for this event, so I'm so glad I got the chance to be here. The first one I'm reading is the poem that I wrote when. Okay, sorry. Is the poem that I wrote when I first came to terms with myself. It's called Of Holy Sacrifices and Holy Wars. Bedtime meditative tales with the warmth of motherhood often gives me the chills of a life I had lived before in worship of a creator who had given her all, insisting that I was but the object of worship in this yajna, the holy sacrificial pyre. Not until the smoke had choked me up until the throat, the brain clouded and shrouded, the heart pumping and thumping, scouting for the last ounce of love, resigned. Yajnas are never holy. The chalice dropped from my hands, shattered 1,000 dead pieces, spitting over my lips and eyes. The spirit it had carried in its bosom was not the soma, the holy wine, but the same tint of red that had bathed the alleys of the city that had once rebirthed me. Those that had smeared had also screamed war cries in praises of their creator, cries that were music to the ears of my creator and burnt like a piercing molten glass in mine. Thank you. Can I just say a few words I wrote? No, very short. No, this is just something that I wrote while sitting here. I don't think it's really a poem, but it's something I really felt sitting here. I don't know any of these people, and yet I feel connected simply by virtue of where they're choosing to sit and listen and feel. I wish for the first time in life that I could talk to each of them, know their stories, hear their poetry. For the first time in a room full of people, I don't feel alone. Thank you.
What beautiful, beautiful poems we've had. I'm going to give you one quick one from me, and then I'm handing over to Jane. I want to say a huge thank you to the ever-patient and cheerful Sean and Stephen, who have recorded all of this. I want to say thank you to Lucy and Ursula again, and to the lovely Josh, who has also facilitated. There was a wonderful woman, Sri, who's over there, who also made this possible today. And I hope I didn't miss anybody, but I want to say thank you all for making this possible. And the audience, of course, you're the people, you're why it's happening. So one quick one, it's called Cryptolect, which is like a language which is deliberately designed to not be understood by other people. Cryptolect is a way to smuggle meaning between people, past borders of misunderstanding. Speakers slip their tongues between syllables, shift the sounds in their mouths, mixing them up just enough to confuse the non-speaker. Outsider, there's a challenge to learning what is hidden, the thrill of knowledge not found in books. If you are there, if it's spoken before you, if you listen, you will learn, if they trust you. In the crypt of the lect lie the remains of those whose words were understood, who did not manage to dodge between dialects, forbidden words of desire, hidden words of escape, codes to keep you alive. Some become slang to an outside world, while others remain a secret chant of belonging, spelling safety and love. Thank you all so much.
I think we have just about 1 minute for me to slip in another poem, because poets do that, don't they? So I met Fióna years and years ago, and we used to workshop poetry, and I'd bring my songs, and they'd give very good feedback on my lyrics. So it was always very helpful, but I do write poems secretly. So this is a poem called Closer to the Light, and it's a poem I wrote for my best friend. I'm actually nervous. You reach out to me as wind through a cloud, the invisible made visible. You move me forward when everything pulls me backwards. You, the force that only reckons with what it needs to reckon with. You give me the strength. Teach me to float, frolic, fly. Teach me that only someone weightless can hold this world grown heavy. That only someone small can soar to lighter spaces. That only someone carefree can love this world grown careless. So float to me, blow through me, and with every gentle move, push me closer to the light. So yeah, this song is called Let There Be Light, and I suppose it's another bit on the theme of light and staying positive and knowing there's good people around, and I think there's a lot of really good people in this room right now, so I feel very lucky. And I should also mention that all the poets, and myself included, we're selling books and CDs, and I think we'll be over there at the end. Anyway, this song is called Let There Be Light. Let there be light. Let there be days. Let there be hope that helps you tread your ways through the crowds. You'll find a face, someone that reaches you in some kind way. In the commotion, it's getting hard to know what really matters and what's worth letting go. And what you intend, and you intend to